us for this session today. It gives me immense pleasure to welcome you all for this session. Actually, heading to a new normal, and we are in the new normal where Maslow is, of course, before Bloom. And we are talking about so many things, and specifically about the health issues and psychological issues that we need to address. It is not only students whom we have to take care of, but of course, our teaching staff and the parents who have done a role reversal and very beautifully come across to mentor their children. We have a lot of questions that comes to the teacher's mind when we talk of the new normal. And today we have amidst us Mimansa Singh Tanwar. I welcome Mimansa for the session. I welcome you, Mimansa, and I hope that the session is going to be very, very fruitful and a lot of our questions would be answered. Mimansa Singh Tanwar is a clinical psychologist with the Department of Mental Health, Behavior Sciences, Fortis Healthcare. She is a cognitive behavior therapist working in the clinical space using evidence based treatments with adolescents, parents, couples, and families. She holds an MPhil in clinical psychology. As the lead clinical psychologist, she provides clinical supervision and assistance to psychologists to enhance therapeutical care across centers. She also heads the Fortis School mental health program with a sense of passion for enhancing the mental health in children. She has a keen interest in qualitatively improving the skills and well-being of adults who work with children. She has co-authored the parenting book Raising Confident Children, a 52-week guide. She has co-designed and co-authored Talking About Mental Health in the Classroom, a mental health curriculum for teachers. She has also co-authored two Amazon Kindle edition ebooks, How to Engage with Your Kids While Working from Home, 21 tips for 21 days, and don't worry, here's how you can keep your mind fit during pandemic. Himansha, really appreciate all your work with passion that you've been working for the children and for the educators across. We would like to hear from you and know from you what according to you is the new normal, and how do we have a cognitive restructuring in this time of pandemic. Welcome, Mimansa, over to you.
Good evening, all the teachers, all the educators. It's a pleasure to be here and talking about this very important times that we are in right now. Something which is so unique, unprecedented. It's been 4 months that we have all been dealing with this, and in different ways, seeing how we can manage this new normal that we have been, facing in the given time period. The first thing first that we need to realize is that globally there is an experience in a bit of anxiety and stress because of the fact that this is a situation which is unique. We've never been prepared to deal with a situation like this, and we are looking a threat in terms of how there is an illness which can actually impact any one of us. So of course all of us tend to have some worries and some thoughts about and some anxiety about the illness and how it can maybe impact me, my loved ones, my children. And so it's very normal for all of us to have some of these worrisome thoughts when it comes to one's own health. What we need to really do is see how we can build a sense of acceptance to the situation that we are dealing with. Every crisis situation brings with its own challenges, and the current situation brought upon us to be working within our homes, uh, you know physically distancing ourselves from each other, because that's how we will be able to, as a part of how to deal with this pandemic, we will be able to prevent ourselves and our loved ones and other members of the society from getting ill. But working from home, managing so many multiple responsibilities and roles is something that we've never been trained for before. And so this transition has been quite a difficult time period for most of us, impacting us at different levels. Every one of us taking our own times to adapt to it. But the key is to actually accept and adapt to the ongoing situation that we are facing at this point in time. Deal with the resistances that may be coming along, in whether in terms of our own thought process, whether in terms of accepting that this is going to be here for some time, and we have to begin to accept this as new part of the normal that we had been living for all this time. So, yes, of course, when there is a transition and when we are moving from one kind of a lifestyle to the other, there will always be resistances. And at the same time, we'll have to see what are the positive elements that we need to focus on and we need to follow and instill in our day to day lives that can help us to deal with this given time period much, much better. So, first come first is, of course, following up precautions, because whenever there is something external which is, there and we have to deal with it, we have to find sources within us internally that we can control to be able to work and deal with. So, what we can control in the time period where there are so many things happening externally, first is following up precautions. All the precautions that the government has given us, following them A to Z without any loopholes, and teaching children, young children, even adolescent, in different ways of how they can remember these instructions and these precautionary measures and follow them, continuously following them. With young children, you can use actually some creative measures, on how you can teach them not to touching their to follow all these precautions. Like, government had given us this washing our hands by singing a song. The others that you can do is, a sign T or a joker face to remember that you are not supposed to touch your hands on eyes, nose, and mouth, or using your elbow as a pillow whenever you're sneezing and coughing. So, with young children, creative young measures really help and they remember it much better. With adolescent, when they bring any information, filter that information. I think that's very important, that we help them have the right information. Even for us, it's important for us to understand and ask ourselves, why is it that, whenever there is a new illness that we face, there is so much stigma and discrimination that comes along with it. We have a history of it earlier, whether it was HIV, mental health, that we continue to fight, and the stigma, and then now we are dealing with this pandemic of COVID. Stigma arises whenever there is a lack of awareness. So it is important that we continue to build our awareness with the right knowledge and stick to the facts. And whenever there is any information which we think is being floated, which may not have the right source or the correct source or the reliable source, we must check that, and we must also help the others to understand and pass on the information from the correct source. Now, for all the educators and teachers across worldwide, I think it has been a very, very difficult time to be transitioning from physical space of teaching to the online space of teaching. It's not an easy medium. It can be quite exhausting, because it's not easy to be on screen and teaching and interacting and engaging students on our day-to-day lives in our day-to-day basis. Across different organizations, different structures have been making a lot of transitions in the already existing systems, and so for even the education system as well. So many questions have been there, so many challenges that we've been dealing, and I think that's but natural to have these challenges in the beginning of any transition that we face. So, first come first, again, what we need to understand, that every child responds to some of these mediums very differently. So if I talk about elementary school children, I am sure a lot of you may be getting, worries and concerns from parents that children are not sitting in front of the online classroom. They are just not engaging with it. For young children, it may be a little bit more difficult to be able to do that, because for them, physical space instructions from teachers is something that they are more used to and more comfortable with. Interaction with peers is not like how you and I do it. It's more through play. They use play as a means to interact and engage with their peers. And the fact that this is missing, just seeing their teachers and their other peers who are able to come and join in on screen, just seeing their faces, they might find it a little difficult to engage with. So what I tell parents is, let them build their own comfort to this new medium when it comes to learning and teaching, when it comes to learning particularly, because when a child is watching this and they are not being able to sit over there, you let them play around, keep the classes running in the background, let them come, peep in, for some time, then again they will roam around, and then slowly and steadily they will transition into it. So we have to give them that sense of flexibility, that take your time, but then again, let's transition into it, and parents need to facilitate it slowly. When it comes to teachers, using more and more fun, creative ways to engage these young children, whether it is through storytelling, whether it is bringing some puppets, some soft toys, some cartoons of their favorite cartoons in your online classroom, and how you would do it, sometimes by changing the tone, the voice, to engage and interact uh, and attract their attention. That the same way we need to use this medium as well to engage them and bring their attention, attract their attention. At the same time, using visuals, songs. On some days, it's starting your classes with some dances. All of these things are something which are going to make them engaged more and more, but slowly. Like I said, transition is going to be there slowly. It was slow for us, it is going to be slow for them as well. When it comes to middle schoolers, the idea of these online classes, along with academics, is building connection. For each student, whether it is young or middle or high schoolers, routine is a very, very important part of their lives. And specifically when it comes to middle and high schoolers, for them, social connection at that age is very, very important. So we need to give this importance and these online classes from a perspective of how we really connect with them in this time period, and how we take care of their mental well-being, emotional well-being. We talk about our day-to-day lifestyle, the kind of changes we are bringing in our lives at this point in time as teachers at this age, how you are learning newer skills and newer things when it comes to, again, online platform. It has been a difficult transition for you as well. So validate their anxiety, validate their concerns, their emotional well-being is something that we need to validate. And yes, that they may also be struggling with certain things, so that sense of flexibility we need to give to them as well, where we are saying that you also take your own time, but at the same time, making this medium more engaging by building that sense of connection with them is something that is going to be helpful to them. And sometimes when some children, so like I said, different students tend to respond to this medium very differently. Some children who earlier would feel very anxious in the physical space because of the anxiety that they would feel in the social interaction with peers, they are right now at this point in time performing so well because of the fact, the kind of control that they're able to have when it comes to their social engagement. And similarly, for every child it's something different. Some children may be finding it a little difficult to be able to engage themselves in the online classroom, so give them that flexibility to be able to do the assignments outside of classroom as well, and then help connect with you to be able to upload them. And some students who are finding it difficult to, again, engage in this time period, perhaps maybe getting in touch with them outside of the classroom, those few children, through WhatsApp video chats or anything else in smaller groups, to be able to again encourage them, understand from them where they may be struggling, and then supporting them accordingly is going to help them, and will also help them continue build their connection with you. Along with that, I think technology gives us a lot of newer ways to interact with students. In fact, encourage students to come up with some new things on how they would want to make learning a lot more fun, given the fact that, for them, digital media is a second language. So, we can encourage them to teach us some of these newer skills that as teachers we may be struggling with. And, we are still trying to learn. In that way, we are also role modeling that, at this age we can learn something new, and we are so motivated to sort of instill some of these new skills. And I think that is also another way of how we can continue to strengthen our connection with them, using and being well versed with some of these mediums slowly and steadily, because now that we understand that these mediums allow us to also have classes in different ways, where we can have smaller discussions, break classes into that, and then go back to the main class online. All these platforms, whether it is Zoom, WebEx, they tend to allow now these different kind of ways of how we can conduct our classes, use graphs, use visuals. As a break, sometimes encourage children and students to sort of change their background, the screen background. So we need to make it a little more fun for them, rather than approaching this learning and teaching in a conventional way of how we would do in a physical space in schools. So I think it is time that we also bring in that element of newness to some of these things that we are now getting exposed to, and involve more and more different things on how we can encourage students to be a bit more creative and give them that flexibility to learn things more visually through various charts, through encouraging them in your conversations with them when you are having that, and also encouraging them to teach you some of these new skills when it comes to this platform. As teachers, I also believe that it is there are too many things that we are managing at this point in time, whether it is work from home, having these classes, managing our families, managing our children, managing our day-to-day life ourselves. There is too many things that we are looking at to be able to work around in this given time period. So what is important is also to keep a check of your own stress levels, because if you will be healthy and you will feel emotionally and mentally much more positive, that is the kind of impact we will also be able to create in people around us, whether it is our family members, whether it is our children, whether it is our students. So it is important that we don't just continue to increase our to-do list and just keep on working on it one after the other. We don't evaluate ourselves very harshly by saying that how will I learn this new thing, how will I manage this, I'm not doing it so well. I think everyone takes time, and encourage and give yourself also encouragement and positive reinforcements when you are learning some of these new things and are being able to transition and manage some of these classes on a day-to-day basis. So live each day as it comes. If you had a good day today, you encourage and positively reinforce and tell yourself that today was a good day, and pat yourself for that. At the same time, if you are feeling stressed, if you're feeling overwhelmed, take a step back. See what are the different factors that may be making you feel overwhelmed or stressful. Take a check on that and cut down on your to do list. I think it is important that we all learn to go a bit easier on ourselves and not just have too many expectations, continue to have that. Because that can also create a sense of exhaustion when we tend to have these very high perfect expectations from ourselves. We all continue to make flaws, we all are learning, and the given time period where there are so many limitations, we all are trying to give in our best efforts that we can. So that's how we look at it, on how can we manage each situation that comes with the in front of us in a more problem solving way, and we continue to maintain a sense of positivity in our lives by one, connecting with our peers as teachers, which is also important that we connect with each other the way we would do our staff room chats and laughter, and sharing each other's lives. I think it's important that we also continue to do that through visual meets that we can have uh, you know im- uh, on some of these days that is possible, and continue to share the things that you are learning, you're struggling with, validating each other on how you're dealing with day-to-day lives, and sharing and that sense of laughter that you would share earlier as well, to continue to maintain that. The other thing that we need to understand and we need to inculcate as a part of dealing with this situation with the sense of positivity is how in the evening where we are able to also spend and engage time with our family members, bringing back some of those old things that we would do earlier, whether it was board games, whether it was karaoke, dump shrouds, or picking up albums and talking about past stories and anecdotes, encouraging children to do that in our homes, with us, even with the elderly in the home. That creates a sense of positivity, an element of playfulness and aliveness in our day-to-day lives. Connecting with our distant family members, connecting with our old friends, this is the time where we can deal with the situation with a sense of connectivity, with a sense of interconnectedness, because resilience is not just about looking and picking up some of these strengths just from within, but resilience is also about building support systems. So build your support systems and reach out for help whenever you feel that you are struggling and you need some support, whether it is your family, whether it is your colleagues, whether it is about reaching on a helpline and talking to an expert if you are feeling stressed and overwhelmed. But it is very important that we continue to build on our support systems, and we also inculcate the same. in our students, in our children, to focus on their on building their support systems, encouraging them to connect with their peers. So in some of these classes, sometimes breaking the class for children to just talk with each other, create some noise, create some buzz around. Sometimes even have virtual meets, just as a part of connecting with each other, not like a teaching classroom, but just sheer connection, where a teacher can moderate some of these sessions and just talk about what's happening in their life and ask them what they're doing, encouraging them to also have and inculcate hobbies, interests, asking them simple things that they are doing in their lives right now, whether it is household work, how they're enjoying or not enjoying doing some of these things, but sharing your experience again, encouraging them to share their experience. This sense of connectivity is something which we need to really inculcate in our day-to-day lives right now, because that will take care of our emotional well-being. When we support each other, when we empathize with each other, and when we show a sense of compassion and interconnectedness, a sense of togetherness with each other. The situation that we are dealing with is not just about an individual, it's about all of us in the situation, how we are facing challenges that are coming to us. And it's a collective way of how we are facing these challenges. For each one of us, the challenge may be different, but then again, we are not alone in it. And that's what we need to continue to remind ourselves. And at the same time, because there are so many relationships that we are managing from work, being able to take care of our stress levels will also help us be a lot more patient in those relationships. So not having very rigid expectations from different family members, understanding their needs, being sensitive to each other, and giving each other the space to be able to run their lives the way they would do earlier, and how each one of you just come together to support each other, whether it is running of the house, functioning of the house, encouraging children to engage in household chores, other adults in the house to engage in household chores. That's very important again, because that shows that when there is difficult time, we all come together to support each other with a sense of togetherness, with a sense of positivity, and fight this pandemic with a sense of humor and laughter as well, by involving that in our day-to-day lives. So continue to have that humor, continue to have that sense of aliveness, uh, you know uh, see things which are more humorous, talk to each other in a in a way which brings in a sense of laughter and sense of aliveness. That's again very important, because laughter brings in a lot of positivity again. So I'm going to open the session now to questions. Please feel free to ask me whatever questions that you may have.
I'm Mrs. Grover. I
This is
truly agree
right.
with you that inner engineering is the need of the hour right now. And there are many questions which our listeners have sent. So, shall we start? Let's get
Sure,
going.
please.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Ma'am, the first question is that many people suffer from anxiety disorder, and media coverage can be triggering at times. So, what is the way to cope? I mean, how should one balance the worries with the need to stay up to date on information?
See information and update yourself only once a day, because there is nothing new that is going to come out in the same day that would be different. Just merely looking at numbers and the graphs, and how the number is going up, is going to just increase your anxiety more and more. It is important in a time like this we restrict our consumption of the pandemic news, and you continue to watch TV, but watch other things and not just news. And specifically when you have elderly at home, you can just update them, have the download of the information once a day and just update them, encourage them to perhaps not look at news, particularly when it comes to this segment so much. So I think it's absolutely okay to just withdraw yourself from watching the news continuously about this. Updating yourself once a day is just good enough, and that's important just for us to know what is my role as a member of the society, what is it that I can do to be able to continue to work towards what is required of me. So that's the purpose of your news. And at the same time, I think when it comes to news, our automatic attention goes to the worst. but it's very important that we also focus on stories of recovery, because there are so many stories of recovery. But it's automatic how we tend to focus more on the mortality rate, and the kind of community transmission which is happening, which is there. The only way to deal with it is one, prevention, and please continue to focus on stories of recovery as well. Where there is hope, we will be able to fight the fear as well.
Yes, ma'am. I think that's a very good advice that you've given because, including me, many people suffered from this anxiety, listening to the numbers and rising numbers. Yes, ma'am. The
Absolutely.
second question is working parents develop guilt about not spending much time with their younger children who spend long hours either on television or mobile. And these working parents are not even able to be with them during the online classes. So, how can they beat their worry and guilt?
I think, like I said, we need to not expect perfection out of us in the given time period. There are a lot of limitations, and we have to adjust and adapt to this time period. What parents can do is, one, the child's screen time that they want to give to the child, parallel it with their work, and both the parents, they need to contribute on how they can supervise in between their work, the children at home. So what children really need is basically stimulation. So specifically with young children, you stimulate them with some engaging activities outside of the screen time, which is whether it is some form of art and craft, whether it is creating your home atmosphere more and more child friendly. So for some time, keep your artifacts away and create some space for them to just jump around, have some physical energy. I think the fact that young children are missing physical energy and physical activity, there is a lot of change that they are going through. Sometimes they complain of feeling too lethargic. They feel that they do not have the energy to do anything. The other moment, within a few hours, you will see that they're jumping around so much, they're feeling hyperactive, and you will see that there is a sudden change in the energy. That's because physical activity tend to bring in a lot of stability within them. And the fact that that's not happening right now, it's very very important that we make our houses more child friendly, where we let them jump around, we let them run around, we let them have this unstructured way of how they can engage in some form of physical activity. That's again very very important. And like I said, include them in household work. Young children specifically enjoy that a lot. It's just we need to make it more child friendly and more adaptive to their needs. So for example, if a young child comes to you and says, I want to learn cutting, you can just have some boiled potatoes and a very very blunt knife, and you can just tell them, okay, how about we try and do that. So it's just about, as a parent, where we can bring in some sense of modification in what a child is showing interest in, and encouraging their interest, rather than feeling that this is something that perhaps will increase a lot of my work and my worry and my concern. Because either ways, if we are not encouraging them, then they're going to spend that time in something else, so that is also going to increase our concern. So it's about how we can just be a bit more creative with young children specifically, and we just encourage them in having their interests and their creativity. We just maintain that. I think that's very important.
Ma'am, what advice would you give to parents with adult children, teenagers and
So
adults?
I think media is here to stay, and this is the time where, of course, the only way that we are able to connect with each other is through digital platforms. So we can't say that do not engage yourself too much on it, because we don't know how much is too much right now. Online classes are happening. Outside of that, children are engaging with their peers through these digital platforms again. Then they also need some of their recreational time as well on social media, or on the games, or any other way. What is important is that we teach them media literacy skills. We need to make them media smart, where at least we know that when they're engaging in this space, they are not doing something that can be harmful either to them or any of their peers. So we need to talk about how to instill some media literacy skills, whether it is source of the information, whether we see how different media information and whatever we see on media influence our lifestyle choices, our perception, our behavior, how we connect with people, and how we tend to get influenced, in terms of our own self concepts. When we look at some of these influencers, when we look at the followers, when we look at these stories, these 15-second stories, how they tend to impact us, influence us, and how media has been somewhere creating that distance between what we want people to see and we portraying that again and again on media, vis-a-vis who we really feel we are. So I think with children, as adults around them, whether it is parents, whether it is teachers, educators, we need to demystify this glamorized aspect of media. That's very, very important, because a lot of their interaction actually do happen through media. So in a very conversational teaching moment kind of a style, when there are so many nuances that are there from the environment that we can pick, picking up that as a way to just reflect back with them, what do they think could have been different in a situation like this, how would they feel, what is their view of what happened in that particular news, in that particular situation. And when they're connecting with peers, always checking with them that how their relationships are going. We check a lot about academics, we check a lot about homework, we check a lot about how much you're learning. But I think one of the things which is extremely important, and adolescent nowadays tend to face a lot of struggle with, is to do with relationships. And I'm particularly talking about, because I actually work a lot with adolescent, I think relationships is actually one of the most important things that they tend to struggle with, and tend to increase their sense of anxiety and stress as well. Because if they are not being able to engage with their peers in a healthy way, where of course they tend to face bullying, they tend to face some sense of uncompassionate, judgmental insensitivity from their own friends, from their own peers, their experiences on how to handle mistrust, the kind of trust that they put in their friend sometimes, and the friend just breaks that trust, and the kind of setback that it gives them emotionally. Children tend to go in a shell then, and they feel that there is nobody around me who's being able to understand me, and I don't have any support system, and I think relationships don't have meaning. So we need to somewhere preserve that element of the fact that relationships are hard work, and we need to continue to work on them. We need to be more sensitive towards each other, we need to be more empathetic towards each other. And if there are conflicts, what is a healthy way to resolve these conflicts? Not only do we teach them, but we also role model it in our day to day lives to them.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you so much. As you rightly said, that this is the time to build connection with our children, and we have to forget preaching. We have to be more friendly to them. Ma'am, the next question to you is how to handle family and friends who don't take this lockdown or this pandemic seriously.
I think we need to understand that what is our responsibility as citizens and as social beings, is the fact that somewhere we need to begin to be responsible for our own actions and the kind of impact that it can actually create in people around me. And I continue to say that we are all oceans, and we are all ripples of the same ocean. And if my ripple is not creating the kind of impact that I need, and the kind of positive impact that it is creating, then I need to be mindful of the kind of rippling effect that I am creating. So what I will create is also something that is going to have a ripple on people around me. So I need to be positive, I need to be doing my duty, which I need to as a part of my responsibility. So it is important that we all do it, not find loopholes, because if we do that, that's what we also role model for young children, that there will always be loopholes where you can find your way. And that's how we raise a society which is not very mindful and sensitive. So each time when we see somebody who's doing it, or we realize I am doing it, take a check. I think that's again very, very important.
I've seen many people either they're too finicky about it or they're too casual about it. So, how to maintain a balance is more important in this case.
We
That
become finicky.
whatever we do, others will also get impacted because of our actions.
Absolutely. Absolutely, ma'am. You said rightly, and I think that's what we need to understand. That one, not judge on how people are dealing with it. I mean, people who are being a little too finicky, they are still taking their precautions, and I would still see as something which is positive, which is happening. At least there are people who are taking this very seriously. But then again, when we also feel a lot of fear about how it can impact me or my family members, yes, we can act in that fear as well. But then again, that fear should not make you cross somebody else's boundary. That's again which is very, very important. You continue to follow it. You continue to have process in your family of how each one of us follow it. And for the ones who are not taking it seriously, like I said again, the kind of ripple you'll create, it is going to have an impact. And we need to also be holding that to our responsibility, that if I did not take my precaution well, I am going to impact somebody else negatively. That's how we need to approach it.
Yeah. Ma'am, in addition to it, how to train young children? I'm talking about children, let's say 3 years to, let's say, 7 or 8 years. How should we train them to be prepared for this pandemic without creating a sense of fear in them?
Use stories, use ways of what they can connect with, pick up examples of whether it is, we talk about how it is a wave that has come in that we all need to just face together. And it's about how we just protect together and fight the situation. uh, you know there are so many stories, comics that have come in for parents to talk to young children about this. Use those as a way to talk to them about these things, again in a way which is more informative, and ask them as to what do they understand, because they've been hearing about it for such a long time. So I'm sure they also have their own notions about what is happening right now. So hear from them. um, what is their perspective, what is their understanding of what is happening, and then you will get your own cues of where to begin to talk to them. So do that. And like I said, use stories to explain them the ongoing situation, how it is important for us to stay indoors. It's how about we protect ourselves. When there is a bee, when there are so many bees that are around us, the thing that we do is again go inside our homes and we protect ourselves so that it doesn't sting us. But then again, the other way to fight those bees is that we have the right tools of how we can fight. So follow these precautions. And this ideas that I gave was something that I did with my daughter, that I made a dance routine out of this precautionary thing, that washing our hands, then sign tea, joker face, use your elbow as a pillow. So what basically happened, that not only did she remember some of these instructions, if by chance I or my husband would forget, she would try and tell us, you did not use your elbow as a pillow, you did not follow joker face or sign tea. So then it becomes non-nagging for children. Children don't follow things when it's boring, when they feel I'm being nagged. So when we use creative ways, they remember and absorb it much better. So use more different creative ways for them to teach these.
Yes, I agree with you. That's why probably we're talking so much about art integration. So that's the impact of music and dance on the
Absolutely.
little children. Ma'am, the next question is, what can organizations do to mitigate the psychological impact of the pandemic on their staff?
Create more and more systems which support mental health, whether it is having a counselor in place, whether it is about using a helpline over there, whether it is about creating a sense of flexibility in our work, in our day-to-day lives, how we can be a bit more sensitive when it comes to mental well-being and take care of that as well. It's about placing a policy, a placing a structure within the organization system where people feel free to come and talk about their mental health related issues and concerns, and how we address them. The way we approach them, the way we address them needs to have a sense of positivity and a sense of support, because mental health outcomes are going to define every organization's productivity, and how we also grow. And even for that matter, how we engage with students, our mental health outcomes are also going to define our students well-being as well. So both for us, for students, for the organization as a whole, we must have some mental health related policy or structure in place for a good mental health outcome.
Luckily, let me share it with you. We are at such a place where we behave like a family, and all the senior members are available to all the junior members of the staff,
That's so
even the
wonderful.
even the people in authority also. So anytime anybody can talk to anybody, and pour their heart out. Thank you
Absolutely.
so
And I
much.
think
Yeah.
that's what
Yes.
we really look from each other. And I think it's such a wonderful thing to do.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, what do you see the long-lasting psychological effect in the society once this period finishes? Will we forget very quickly, or will it change everything?
Well, I hope it brings some positive changes because in the life that we were also leading earlier, we were stuck at certain points where we had to rethink about some of the already existing systems. And I think this pandemic has done both the things. It has also pushed us to think about a lot of things, way forward from here. What could be our learning? What are the changes that we need to bring in our day to day lives? In terms of whether it is our work, whether it is our relationships, whether it is about taking care of our own selves. I think at all these three levels, it has pushed us to think about things because this is something that's not only impacting every individual, but it is also impacting each one of us collectively at different levels. So it has actually made us think about all of these things. What would be the outcome? I think it's difficult to say right now because we are still far away from where we would be few months down the line. The honest answer is we do not know how would we come out in this with the kind of impact that we would. But yes, we can see and we need to acknowledge the way it is impacting us and have a more problem solving approach to whatever impact that it is creating us. And like I said, continue to seek support from our support systems. Robust support system is going to be one of the ways of how we will be able to come out of it more positively. We may have our losses in the time period, whether it is financial, whether it is any other loss, but any loss can be recovered as long as our mental health and our relationships are in place. So we need to continue to invest in our mental and emotional well-being and our relationships. And when it comes to children, I think children are resilient beings. For them, we just have to role model that, and they come out of things a lot more positively and a lot more faster. So if we role model positivity, if we role model resilience, they in any case will be able to deal with it in a lot more positivity.
I would like to share something with you. I attended one of the webinars, and there the speaker said that what worse can happen? What worse than this can happen with you? So we are more resilient, and we have a lot of stories to share with our future generations. Yes,
Absolutely.
yes. Ma'am, I think this is the question which many teachers and many parents would have in their mind, that they have high energetic children at home and
Hmm.
behaviors have already become very erratic. With nowhere to go for a break, the whole family is reaching the breaking point. As parents, how can they help their children survive this?
Like I said, that we have to create more child friendly environment at home. It is very important that in the time period like this, children are comforted and they are given the times the space to be able to exert their physical energy. It's very very important for them to have that in their day to day, in their each day, that they spend good amount of time in some amount of physical activity. That will take care both of lethargy that they may complain sometimes of, and even hyperactivity that we tend to see. So we are experiencing this amount of extremity in their behaviors, where sometimes we feel that how can he or she be lethargic since morning? They've hardly done something, but they're complaining that they do not have the energy to deal with anything. And the other moment you will see that right now they were complaining of lethargy, and now see how hyperactive they are. I have a 7-year-old daughter as well, and I'm saying that all of these things are normal in the given time period. We just have to create more and more space for children and more opportunities for children to have physical activity in their day to day life. That's, I think, very very important. And have a lot of unstructuredness to their activities. Children learn and find unstructured activities a lot more fun. So if they have some hobbies that they are doing, don't make homeworks out of those hobbies as well. If they're attending some hobby classes, ask them to just play with it outside of that, outside of the class. If you say that you just enjoy and play the way you want to do it, rather than putting your expectation in terms of homework or this is how you have to do it. Children tend to withdraw from that, because from for them it is about exploration. It's about, what they feel about that particular instrument or art material, or what medium that we are giving them. We have to make it a little more intuitive and more creative and more fun for them. So keep your expectations aside, be more flexible, be more creative, be more curious, and instill the same thing even in young children.
Yes, ma'am. And I feel it's okay for us, each one of us, to not do anything, on days where we don't feel like doing. It's okay. We talk so much about structure and routine and timetable. It's okay if you're not able to or not ready to do something. I feel it's okay. Ma'am, being a teacher, I'm also concerned about my students. So, would the new normal mean less information to be imparted as school hours are reduced and teaching methods have changed? So, if your answer is yes, then how competitive will the system be? This question is in relation with senior children, let's say from ninth to 12th.
I think our learning outcomes will have to undergo some change. We will have to look at on in different ways of how we can assess children in the time period. And like I said, that for me, the competitiveness would not be just about, again, the conventional ways of how we would test them. For me, it's about how in the given time period they are able to actually face the challenges that they are having in their day-to-day lives, because that is also a very important element of facing that sense of competitiveness in life. It's about the zeal, it's about the passion that we continue to preserve in them in whatever things that they are doing. And that is how we need to look at it, that we continue to preserve their sense of learning, we continue to preserve their sense of curiosity, we continue to preserve their sense of interest, passion that they have about certain things, and how we can in different ways support them for them to test their own knowledge of what they've learned. So we will have to look at different ways, whether it is open book test learning, or testing, open book testing, or it is oral testing, or it is visual testing. I think it is time where we also look at some of these different ways of how we can test children. Maybe perhaps it will give us something different, and as an education system we'll have to maybe think a little more on those lines, that how can we make it more and more modified to the child's need. In fact, different children who also tend to struggle a lot when it comes to academics, whether it is writing, whether it is comprehension, whether it is reading. There is also a certain section of children who perhaps need this kind of technological support to enhance their learning. So in that sense, in fact, it may perhaps create the same level of baseline for each and every student to be able to put in their effort and showcase what they can bring in over there. So I think there are certain positives, of course, that we can look at with digital learning and the technological learning.
Thank you so much. And I think in the same way, even teachers have updated their, technological expertise. Ma'am, one more question which is bothering a lot of people these days is about finance. Now, financial instability is a great cause of anxiety amongst people. And most people are worried about their financial crisis and its long term impact. What would you advise such people who are going through financial crisis?
Families need to work together to face these challenges. You have to not only work on your reserves and work towards having a problem solving a plan that you can put in place, but as families, how can you support each other? And which is why I continue to say that we have to build on our support system. Do not hesitate to reach out for help from a family member when you know that you are experiencing some financial crunch or some stress for that matter. And even otherwise, we need to understand that and remember that, yes, of course, even though I am not alone who is experiencing this kind of a loss, it is not to do with me. It is not because I did something and which is why I'm having this financial loss. The circumstances like this, that we are experiencing loss in some way or the other. So it is important that we don't personalize it, Because when we personalize it, whether it is for our own selves or maybe our partner or a family member who's incurring loss, it takes a lot more emotional toll on us. We find it difficult to find solutions to those problems. And yes, we have seen worldwide that financial crunch and financial losses continue to be also one of the very key aspects of how it impacts our mental health and increases our stress levels. So the only way to deal with it is, one, do not personalize any of this loss that you're incurring. It is to do with the circumstance. Look at the things that are in your control, whether it is your reserves, whether it is about cutting down on your day to day, whether it is about reaching out to family for some support. And whenever you feel that emotionally and in terms of your mental health, mental well being, you're not being able to manage it, please reach out to an expert on a helpline. Talk to them, share with them your problem, but always remember, any loss that we have, we can also have recovery. So the financial losses that we are incurring right now, there will always be a recovery period as well. We just have to deal with the situation as it comes.
I really liked your advice that this situation is not in our control. So anything that is beyond our control, we should not take onus of that, and make sure that the worry would only sabotage our efforts to evolve. Ma'am, this question is for all the older people that we have in our family. See, older people are panicking about this pandemic given their increased risk. So, what would you recommend to them to help them navigate through this difficult time?
As young family members, we just need to continue to validate their anxiety. We need to keep them in positive spirits. If we have young children in our houses, encourage them to have more interaction with their grandparents. If they are distant, if they are living in other house and you're living in a different city, or in the same city in different houses, and you feel scared to meet them, have more visual connection, more visual interactions with them, no matter how many times of the day. Share how your day has gone, ask from them how their day has gone. And when young children, encourage them to share their stories, their anecdotes, and even talk about what they are doing, simple things in their day, everything from morning till evening. If you ask a young child to share with their grandparents and you talk about, they will give each and every small nuance that they've done and what they've seen in the house. For them, for elderly, this is just a matter of positivity that they feel. They just feel a sense of joy. They feel that their attention has been shifted from whatever is happening in the world outside to what they have over there, those sense of moments of joy, those pockets of connecting with their grandchildren and with their children for that matter. So I think it's very, very important that we continue to stay connected with them, and we spend some time, playful time, even for them, with them as well. Whether it is encouraging them to have some board games, with young children, they can supervise young children to in the activities that they are doing. And this is the time where we need to do away with the differences and just continue to see how we can build acceptability towards each other, more patience towards each other, more tolerance towards each other. Because I think that is what is going to really help us steer our way forward from this time.
Yes, ma'am. As rightly said, we need to support somebody and we need to get somebody's support. Ma'am, Unlock 2 has started. People have started going back to work, and they have great anxiety of bringing something home and infecting others. How should people manage their anxiety?
Follow the precautions. When you are moving out of the house, you carry your masks, you have sanitizers in your pockets. Each time you are moving out and that there are certain potential things that you've touched and you've met people, use your hand sanitizer. Use as many times as you can. So these are some precautions that I think we all need to follow, because that is the only thing that we can do actually. So again, do not have any loopholes. Please follow all these precautions. And when you realize there is something that you might have caught, and you realize that there are some symptoms that you can see within you, just take start taking some measures for it. Whether it is about stop going to work, whether it is about isolating yourself within 24 hours to be able to first measure and observe how you are feeling, and then reaching out to a doctor and talking to them. But it is important that we follow our precautions and we keep our health in check.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much. Ma'am, this was the question which many people sent. So I think though you've answered about financial loss, but still I would specifically ask you this question just for their sake. How can we deal with the loss of job in the middle of pandemic? Again, it is related to financial crunch, but many people ask this question.
I would say the same thing. I think loss, whether it is of a job, finance, is not happening because of you. But yes, it is certainly a very, very difficult situation that we tend to face. It becomes even more difficult when we tend to blame ourselves for what we did, for what happened, because we continue to go back and look at back in time with the regret that perhaps I should have done something differently at that point in time so that this layoff would not have happened. We need to understand that across the globe, because of the kind of economic crisis that we are experiencing, layoffs are happening. So you're not alone in this. Do not internalize, do not self blame. Understand this as an external circumstance and just support each other. Continue to stay connected with your family and reach out to an expert whenever you feel that you're not being able to manage the stress. But the only way to deal forward and work forward with this is, you know bring that and pull up that strength from within you, that this is just a time and a phase that I will surpass in time to come. This is a challenge which has been thrown at me, and I'm going to deal with it with a lot more positivity. So I will stay connected with my family. I will maybe incur some more or I will just invest my time and energy in the things that I used to enjoy, and in that rigmarole of my work, my life, I could not do. So spend some time, investing in yourselves. That is very, very important. It will help you feel more positive.
I've learned a very beautiful sentence which I would like to share with you and the audience. This too shall pass. So,
Absolutely.
anytime I feel low about anything, I just keep reiterating this sentence, and it gives a lot of energy and it helps me to come out of it and emerge as a winner.
Absolutely.
Ma'am, I would like to ask you one more question. Like, see, it's very important to take care of your mental health. This is the need of the hour right now. How to ensure that mental health is taken care of? I mean, everybody knows everything. We knows all the do's and the don'ts, but still there are times when we, go to the deep ditch and experience blues there. So, how to make yourself mentally strong?
Always stay connected with things that gives you a sense of positivity. And these could be very simple things. We feel that, when it comes to mental health, it's about how we are able to fill our bucket with small things of things that we enjoy, things that we like. So lifestyle is one thing that we must keep our lifestyle in check. Have more work life balance. This is a time where we are seeing a lot of change, and we can actually instill that sense of work life balance in our lives, and rethink about whatever the structures and the way that we were processes we were following earlier. Bring in that sense of change in your life now. This is the right time. Second, hobbies, interests, we lose that over a period of time. We don't stay connected with them. All we tend to do is just focus on that one particular aspect of our life, and we tend to forget everything else that also brings in us element of positivity. So after I think 13 years, when I moved in over here in US 2 years back, I picked up my classical music back again, and I realized the kind of positivity that I used to feel with it, and how I need to just bring that back in my life again. And I continue to have that music in my day-to-day activity as a part of my daily activity. So anything like that you had earlier, but because of the lifestyle that we were leading, we somewhere lost them. Bring those things back in your life. It's about just immersing yourself in things that you enjoy. It acts as a preventive when it comes to your mental health and your mental well-being. It will prevent you from feeling low and down.
You shared a
Relationships, again, any point in time, wherever you reach, at any stage in life, at any turn in life, Your relationships, people who stand by you, will always be your matter of strength. So we need to continue to invest in meaningful relationships, not make them as a matter of convenience, but as a matter of as connection, as meaningfulness that we can bring in our relationships. That is again something which is very, very important. And whenever we have those thoughts of worry and concern that put us down, recognize what in the environment may be actually causing that. First, deal with your emotion. Acknowledge what you're going through. It is absolutely normal for each one of us to experience any emotion that we experience, because emotions again makes us human. And we can't say I can't feel shame, I can't feel guilt, I can't feel angry, I can't feel sad. A situation is going to evoke some emotion in you. Acknowledge that, manage that, deal with it, regulate your emotions by doing all of these things, whether it is breathing exercise, whether it is physical exercise, whether it is all these small things that I spoke about, that bring in a sense of positivity, and then steer ahead with the situation in a more problem solving way. And like I said, if you feel that you still need some support, reach out to an expert. Mental health has been stigmatized for a very long time, but this is the time where we actually give it its place, where each one of us are actually struggling with some kind of mental health related concern with the stress that we are experiencing. So we need to make this as a part of our day to day conversation, where we're able to talk about mental health in a more positive way. We encourage people to seek help. We normalize help seeking. If you're struggling with something, do not make that struggle alone, just about you. Reach out for help. You will always be able to find some solution to the problem.
I think throughout your program, you have stressed on building connections with people, stay connected to people. Thank you so much, ma'am. I think this is a very powerful practice that you've shared with us so that we can engage to infuse our life and actions with boundless energy. This webinar was an astounding glimpse into the world of thoughts and emotions. So, thank you so much, ma'am. You've, I think, very beautifully answered all the questions. I would like to hand over to Mrs. Nair, who would propose the vote of thanks. Thank you, Ms. Tanwar.
Thank you so much. I will just add one more thing. Fortis has a helpline which is available in 16 languages, which is there available 24/7, and we have our psychologists over there. Anytime you feel you or your family member need to reach out for help, please feel free to reach out to our experts. Have these helpline numbers in your phone, like the way you have these helpline numbers of you have numbers of your physicians on your phone, because that's the kind of approach we need to give our mental health and the kind of importance that we need to give our mental health to. So please have these helpline numbers in your phone. I will just say the helpline number for Fortis. It's 837-6804-102. I will repeat, 837-6804-102. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Over to you, Mrs.
Thank
Nair.
Thank you, Mimansa. It was beautifully talked about and truly said and highlighted by you, and truly highlighted by, spoken about by Swami Vivekananda when he says that talk to yourself once in a day, and otherwise you may miss meeting an excellent person in this world. And this is true. So definitely when you need changes and changes are happening around you, it's very important to accept the change and internalize it. Then only will you be able to go with the flow. And of course you have to cut down on your to-do list, and you have to give time to yourself and a family time, and stay connected is of course something which we have to go by. And as teachers, it is very important for us to look into the fact that today it's not about what you're going to teach, it's how and why you're going to teach. The teacher need to definitely understand that why a particular thing is being taught to the children and what implications it would have. So we are on the flow of going on to content based to competency based, where we definitely would like to enhance and would improve the social and the economic emotional well-being of the child. So thank you so much, Mimansa. Very, very thought-provoking session. I hope that our participants also enjoyed. Thank you so much. And at the end, I would like to say that live life to the fullest. That's what is the crux of the matter. Thank you so much. God
Thank you.
bless. Thank you.